You're listening to the X Podcast. I'm Russ Moore, sitting here across from Tim Moore.
Hey,
I don't. You
what?
You sound and look like an excited boy right now. And you have your summer colors and your summer tan.
I was screwing with you as you were doing your intro. I liked it.
Yeah, you were. I don't know when this episode will reach you, dear listeners and viewers, but if it reaches you late, it's because Tim has been talking about black magic the last 20 minutes.
Stop.
And
that is a piece of equipment that we use at times in the church and other places.
Supposedly a
evil?
piece of equipment called black magic.
Yeah.
And so I have tried to interject with references to Lord Voldemort and Hagrid, and
what's
everyone
Hagrid?
is ignoring me because Pastor Zach roped me into getting into Harry Potter over the last year. I'm on book 4.
Okay. That's
And
something to be proud about.
It's not. I'm not proud of it, but it is.
Are you enjoying it?
It's good storytelling. It's good
There you
storytelling. Speaking of good storytelling, speaking of good fiction, I just recommended some fiction to you
Yeah,
that
you
you're
did.
about to embark on because you,
Decker?
Ted Decker, which how have
might.
you never heard of him?
Yeah, I don't read fiction.
Yeah, but
Ever.
Okay, but
Ever.
Again, how
I
have you
need
never
to.
heard of him? Even if you haven't read fiction, you know who Stephen King is, and you're a Christian. You should
Is he
know who
related to
Decker
Ted
is.
Lasso?
He is not. Although that'd be amazing.
I did finish it.
Wait, finally?
Yeah.
When?
I don't know, like a week ago. 2 weeks
What'd
ago.
you think?
2 weeks ago. It was good. The ending was good.
I don't like that you just said the word good. What do you mean just good?
The ending was good.
It was life-changing. Did you cry?
I didn't cry. It wasn't life changing, but it was
Okay.
good. But it
Well,
was good. I thought it was
really good.
I thought the way if they ended it,
Yeah.
which I think they ended it right.
I
They're
think
not.
so. And I will
the way
say
they ended
Ted-
it, they could bring it back, but they did. I thought
yeah.
it was touching.
It was
touching.
very touching.
It was touching.
Ted concerned me at the first part of that episode. He just seemed kind of off. But then it came
Yeah,
around.
Yeah. So, anyways, I thought it was a good, very touching ending to the story.
Yeah.
I thought it was. You could see his. I think he's one of the most positive characters ever developed
Yes.
on TV or big screen,
Yes.
and including Mr. Rogers, and maybe not. But
Interesting.
he also, one of the things that was really cool to see that I think a lot of times we don't see in our life is the influence that someone can make on people in an organization. And that's what they showed very well at the
Yes.
end. They showed his
Yes.
impact and influence on, as corny as everything is that he says and as dumb as he comes across, and but he's happy-go-lucky, always positive, whatever. But the way they kind of illustrated that out with the impact he had on the journalist and the owner and the people and how it changed them forever, I thought was pretty impactful. When you consider that most people in regular life, I don't think we ever get to find out and know what kind of
We
impact
don't.
that we have, and usually the only time that you hear about it, well, the person doesn't get to hear is what's said at their funeral.
Yeah. He turned a team into a family, and he just
Yeah.
what I mean, not just be like that guy, but like he really exemplified Christian traits. I mean, the show didn't portray it that way, but
Right.
really what he did. I mean, some of the most
Minus his language.
Yeah,
No,
but
shit, I'm
so one of the most, I mean, some of the most heartwarming moments were just moments where he showed unreasonable forgiveness.
Yeah.
Just,
yeah.
I mean, just
Getting stabbed in the- yeah.
immediate, just
Yeah.
grace and forgiveness, and
Yeah, that was cool.
and I just think the world,
And everybody took their cue from him. Mm-hmm. Everybody else that wanted to get back at, what was his Nate?
yeah,
Right? Everybody wanted to get back at Nate, and he wouldn't. And he showed like compassion and grace, and it changed everybody else's perspective of him. So it was pretty cool. There was some.
Yeah.
I mean, it was touching.
Yes.
I got into the end of the season was better than the beginning of whatever that season was. It kind of
Yeah.
started off a little like, what is this? And then
Yeah.
the end, I think, really was good. So
Yeah, The Atlantic wrote an article, released an article called "Ted Lasso has lost its way," and I just want to rebuke that and say, no, Ted Lasso found his way.
Yeah.
And it ended well.
Found his way
and
home.
There was an Apple Twitter teaser a couple days ago of a spinoff of some sort of thing, and it was, but Ted wasn't in it. It was Nate, Coach Beard, and Roy Kent.
Oh,
and
Roy.
I love
Yeah,
I
Roy.
love Roy. Is it? Yeah.
hate life.
he just grunts and says
He
the
just
F
says-
word,
he
and
swears
it's
on it.
somehow heartwarming.
And he just hates
Okay,
people.
now you sound like Oscar.
Oscar
the
the
Grinch.
Grouch.
The Grouch, yeah.
Roy,
But-
Roy Kent talks
Roy
like
Kent.
Roy Kent.
If you're listening, I'm so sorry. But
Yeah, this has been a waste. Let's start over.
No, but it's those three in a lot, and literally the tagline is simply "It smells like potential."
Oh my.
So I think they may be doing something new. But all that to say,
Yeah.
we're getting you into some fiction now because you're about to go away on a jet plane.
going away for
and you don't know
a
when
jet
you'll be back
plane.
again. So
That's all not true.
talk to us about that. About to embark on your first sabbatical.
My first?
in 6 years.
Oh.
You excited?
Yeah,
What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm taking a
us
ministry
through that.
break.
I don't know when
And-
this will come out, but by the time it
Yeah.
comes out, you may
I'm
already be gone.
No, I'll probably be on the sabbatical break. So it's just taking a step away from my ministry role for a while, for about a year and a half. And no, I was just kidding. It's not that long. Just for the rest of the summer, and taking a ministry break so that I can restore and renew vision. And as I said, I think to you, what was it, yesterday, that I think sometimes it's hard to work on something while you're working in it.
Yes.
And so sometimes there's a benefit to getting some margin and some space so that you can. So part of what I want to do is, it's to, as I was talking about it, and by the time this comes out on Sunday, I think, part of it is the mounting. No, let me rephrase that. Mounting and mounting. I don't know. I guess they both are true. Pressure that comes from the role of, preaching regularly, leading, vision casting, worrying about staff and all those other things that go when you get to the kind of the top roles in a organization, let alone church. Some of it is trying to relieve the constant, here's the way I describe it, the constant state of cortisol flow is what happens, especially when you preach all the time, and so it's trying to get out from that for a little bit. That takes some time to get out of your system, so that you can get to a state of rest. So you need a little bit of extended break in order to do that. That's part of it. Secondly, it's using it to try to, like I said, get some margin and space for some clarity of, like, even really the next season of our church ministry and where we're going. And then another part of it, I'm going to be using some of that time to write and kind of work on my next project that I've been working on slowly and kind of doing some of that. So,
Yes.
and so, so I'm going to be doing a little, little break.
It's probably interesting for people that are newer to the faith community, the idea of an extended break, a sabbatical. It's something that, in a faith context is biblical, but it's also something that's really, really important. And it's interesting, too, for someone that's like, oh, wow, like 4 to 6 weeks. We've actually been kind of, Dr. West, who came in, kind of gave us a hard time because if you look up most churches, a sabbatical is 3 months.
Yeah.
So really 6 weeks compared to...
I'm going just a little bit over 6. It's going to be a little bit more than that by the time I'm done, because of the way I've scheduled it out, and I've got another trip to go see my daughter's graduation, all that. It's going to be probably closer to 8. So
good.
It is going to be a little bit longer.
Well, and part of it, I guess I don't know. There's a few different topics I've had on my mind, but I just thought with you going away for a year, whatever, one of the things we've not touched on in a while, but kind of going off the whole thing with our mental health series, is the idea of rest. Because really, sabbatical is an extended form of rest.
Right.
And one of the things we've talked about is, in the Soul Work series, the idea of a soul day, a Sabbath. That's once every 7 days.
A weekly rhythm.
Yeah, a weekly rhythm. Robert Morris talks about this idea of a double Sabbath, which is the idea of every single day there should be moments where you have margin.
Yeah.
And that if you don't have that, then when you finally do have a 1 day a week, you're kind of playing catch up at not having any margin the rest of the week.
Yeah.
It's something I've been trying to work on. I've been trying to, I've talked about it. This summer, I have ended most of my days at a park, and at least twice a week. I want to get better at doing this every day, but at least twice a week, I'll kind of go off the whole rhythm and principle of, when Jesus sent the disciples out, and then the Bible says that they came back and reported back to him.
Yep. And then what did he do? Go ahead.
Tell me what they did.
No. What he recommended immediately was for them to get alone and do rest.
Yeah.
I was looking at that because of the message I was
Oh,
preaching. That's
nice.
why it was one of the
Nice.
passages I was looking at.
Well, I guess kind of enveloped into that is this idea. I think I heard Jason Laird say this 6 or 7 years ago, but the idea of as a way of pausing and reflecting each day of the idea of reporting back. So, one of the things when I first came here and really, really busy days in Lancaster, I had a 20-minute drive from Lancaster back to my apartment in Canal. I would take that time and try to turn off music most days and be like, all right, whew, that was a busy day.
Yeah.
God, I'm going to take 10 to 15 minutes, 20 minutes to decompress with you and report back to you.
Here's what happened.
Here's what happened. And just that idea of processing with God. Like, it's kind of in a very simplified version of what monks would do. In the morning, you're preparing for your day.
Yeah.
And then you're living out your day. And then you're reflecting on your day.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that from here and there at the park this summer of like, I'll just walk around. All right, God, let me report back to you. Let's talk about the day.
That's cool.
It's kind of a process. But anyways, so you kind of
That's
have, I think having some space for reflection, contemplation a couple times throughout the day, the daily office, as the old saints would say, throughout the day. But then you have your full day a week where, not to be legalistic, but that I do think it's important that you unplug. But then, especially for those in full-time ministry, the idea of once every 7 years or whatever it might be, that you take, a full season, to be able to replenish, refuel, refill. And so I'm excited for you. I think it's awesome. But it just got me thinking about the whole idea of rest. It's something that I think I still struggle with, to be honest. Yeah. I have somebody in my life that's been challenging me lately on my rhythms of at night. And because I don't have very disciplined rhythms of at night. And this person, they're really good at kind of a Christian-based meditation at night. And very, very passionate about 7 to 8 hours of sleep and in the morning. And it's been challenging me.
That's good.
And to be honest, my last week, I fall asleep. And I've actually been doing this since they've been challenging me. The last 2 weeks, I've been trying to challenge myself to get 7 hours of sleep at night.
Okay.
But my night rhythms are still horrible. And I have been falling asleep to bloody movies. So I'm just like, since the podcast is a place for confession.
Okay.
I the other night I could not sleep. So I know this is I'm just confessing. I know this is not healthy.
Okay.
I think I have some healthy rhythms in my life, and I got some rhythms that need to get better. So I fall asleep on my MacBook beside me, and Extraction 2 with Chris Hemsworth.
That was a good movie.
Such a good movie.
I saw that. We watched
Such
it.
a good movie. It
Yeah,
just
it
hit
was a
Netflix.
little. It was like John Wick light.
Yeah. So
A little bit.
I watched that and I was like, well, I'll just fall asleep. No, I watched the entire thing.
No, it was a good
I had to
movie.
reset my LED alarm clock so that it would be later. I could get 7 hours of sleep. So then the other night, I'm like,
Oh, that's why you were late
I'm
that
having
day.
trouble falling. No. The other day, I was having trouble falling asleep. And I was like, well, I never saw the first one. So I went back. I watched the first Extraction. I fell asleep. Last night, I discovered. If you're listening to this, hopefully you care about any of this. I discovered a movie I've never seen with Jamie Foxx called The Kingdom. Have you seen? Do you remember this?
It's a little bit older.
It's older. It's
I
like
think
2007,
Yeah.
where there's the terrorist attack, and so they go to Saudi Arabia.
I think I did.
The CIA to.
I think I may have seen it. It sounds familiar.
Oh, I started watching last night. So good. I'm not done with
Really?
it, but so good. So, anyways, all that to say, I'm working on it, and then this person's challenging me, and I'm going back through my journals, and I realized 3 months ago. This may sound really spiritual, but I wrote down in my journal. I feel like God spoke to me that He wants to deal with my night rhythms, and I'm like, okay, I've not done.
So Extraction 2 is not part of the
lot
night rhythm?
with my night rhythms.
Is that not part of the night rhythm?
Really, my issue is I stay gone until
You're
9
out.
9 or 10.
Yeah, and then you eat dinner.
Yes.
A Massey's pizza.
So what I really have got to make myself do is get
home earlier.
home earlier. Actually get in the rhythm. I don't cook meals.
You should just not sit in the sauna for 45 minutes.
No. I should not unless I'm cooking for somebody at night or
Yeah.
unless it's morning for me. I just don't cook.
Yeah.
And so I've got to.
It seems hard to make yourself cook for
Cruise-
one person.
it
Like,
does.
I agree. I'm like,
It
I'll
does.
just go find something. I'm
Yes.
lazy.
So, anyways, I've got to find what
You know
works
what-
for
you
me.
know what
in
would
this season.
help?
What's that?
This would help.
Okay.
Meal prep.
Yeah.
What if you picked a day
Yeah.
and made things that you wanted to eat? You know, and then you had it ready to go.
I have this weird thing against
But
leftovers.
you don't like to eat
though. It feels like
leftovers.
leftovers.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
If I'm going to cook, I want to cook something that I like.
Yeah.
Fresh.
Like frozen pizza or something.
Yeah.
Something fresh.
We had somebody bring us some food today.
I didn't. Yeah.
So, anyways, I think. But anyway, so I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna throw it back on you.
Oh, okay.
How I'm just gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah, sure.
Because Soul
Yeah.
Day, Sabbath, that's been a new thing for you
Yep.
over the last few years.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've gotten better at rest?
No.
Okay.
Well, that's not true.
Okay.
I've gotten over the years. I've gotten a lot better at unplugging.
Okay.
From ministry work.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot better at that. I
I feel
really do.
like you are good at
I'm
that
very
now.
good at that. Like I protect my Fridays
Mm-hmm.
and Saturdays. My wife and I, like, depending on. I think I've gotten better at that. I've not always gotten better at not being busy. It's just I'm not doing work in that regard. It's not always fun stuff. I guess let me say it that way. It's not always restorative. I think that there's, maybe you could say there's different, levels of rest, and just like there is when you sleep, you can get into deep sleep, and then there's just a mild sleep, and I don't know what the different levels and if they're called something, but maybe it's that way. But I've gotten good over the years at really unplugging from work. I finish like message prep. If I'm speaking that Sunday, I finish Thursday. My goal, my internal deadline's noon, right on noon. It's like almost don't go to lunch until I'm done if I can. On Thursday, ship the notes. It's kind of like ship your work. It's done. I don't pick it up. I don't look at it again until Sunday morning. So I've gotten every once in a while. I'll look at something Saturday night, whatever. But I've just gotten better at not doing that. Now Sunday morning I come in and I have to really get after it, and I get up early and come in, and because I have to go back through it because it's like, what am I preaching on? I don't even know what I'm talking about this week again. I have to go re-familiarize myself with it very well and go through it. And so a lot of times I'm making changes to it. So I've gotten better, I think, at protecting a segment of my life that is
That's good.
not doing work in that regard. Now, depending on how life goes, I might be doing housework and I might be doing other things, And some housework I actually enjoy. I like being on the mower. Don't tell my wife. I don't know if I consider that work. I do. It's sometimes, but
You like the mower and a podcast.
Mower and a podcast, book, podcast. I can disappear. I do feel like it's actually restful in that regard. And so, I've gotten a lot better, I think, over the years in that version of rest. And so what happens is my natural rhythm, I think, over the weekends, it does slow down. I think that's what I've gotten a little bit better at doing is slowing down. Whereas Monday through Thursday, and well, really Sunday, because Sunday morning's early morning, but through Thursday, and even on Friday mornings, it's getting up early, it's getting ready, it's devotions, it's going to the gym, it's straight to work. I work all day and don't even go outside, which is a shame on a nice day like today. Like, I literally won't even be outside. I'll never even see outside. I said in my office, I don't even see outside. I don't go outside. It'll be 5 o'clock, 5 something. I'm like, oh, I'll go home. I'll walk outside and go, it is really nice outside. I had no idea.
So I should tell you what I did on my lunch break, but you're going to accuse me of bragging.
Oh, okay. Probably will be. What'd
no,
you do? I didn't take lunch. I went in your office and joked around with you for a little bit, but my lunch appointment canceled and I didn't bring lunch, so I didn't eat lunch.
You should join me sometime this summer, at least twice a week. If I don't have a lunch appointment, I will go to my apartment and run a 5K around the apartment. So I took my lunch break, ran 3.1 miles.
Why don't you just run from here? You could run to your apartment.
I think that's more than 3.1 miles, and it's tough with the traffic.
Yeah.
And no one around here wants to see me with my shirt off.
Well, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Well,
so that's great. You go and you run. That's awesome. I almost went outside. I put one foot outside and went, man, it feels great. I should go outside and work. And then I turned around, went back to my office and didn't.
What I've also tried to start doing, though, is, they say it's important, especially like if you have a sedentary, every
get up
hour and a half. And so I've been trying to be good this summer of even if I can't leave all day, doing a 15-minute lap around the building.
It's good.
Yeah.
No, that's good. So I've gotten a little bit better at rest.
Well, and you have a soul day now.
Yeah.
Which usually on Saturdays.
Well, Friday usually.
Okay.
Friday, I mean, it just depends. I'll be a Friday or Saturday. It depends on kind of what we have scheduled family-wise and what we have going on. I try to, like, Fridays we do, if we're in a regular rhythm, Fridays is kind of like get up, work out. I do my devotions, get up, work out, come back to the house, and then usually it's kind of like with Lorelei, what do you want to do? And so we'll go do something fun.
Yeah.
Like, I try not to work. One of those days I try not to work.
Yeah.
Like, so when I say work around the house or projects or things that we got to do, I try to do all that on one of those days, and the other one just be for fun.
Yeah.
And even like 4th of July,
Yeah.
it was a very slow-paced. Like, I did not do a lot of things on the 4th of July. And later in the evening, went to some friends. But the rest of the time, I read a little bit. I worked a little bit from home. But it was very slow-paced. I went and worked out. It was kind of one of those days where I don't have to do anything, and so I might spend a little time doing this. I get up and go outside and weed a little bit on my own schedule because I want to. So it was.
Love it.
It was about change for me. A big part of rest is learning to change my pace.
Yes. Well, okay. So I'm curious. So you're going to go on your sabbatical. What are you going to do to rest? What are you going to do to unplug? I mean, we talked yesterday at the pool, and you've got a very kind of packed sabbatical
I do
schedule.
kind of have a busy schedule. I've kind of developed a plan for it. So
All right.
I've got some goals for things that I want to do.
Can you tell us?
I mean, some of them I've got written down. I've got a certain number of books that I want to read.
I thought you were going to say it's a certain number of books you want to write.
No. I do have a word count that I would like to hit for my book.
What is it?
What do you mean?
What's your word count?
Well, it's not for finishing the book. It's
I
just
know.
it's probably 20,000.
Hey, come on.
So, well, I have to do it.
Are you going to do all that in Colorado?
No.
Can we
no.
can we talk about where you're going?
Oh, well,
It's a secret.
yes, a secret. No.
Okay.
So I am. So I'm going to have. So I'm going to be trying to. I've got some goals, and I've tried to write them out. I like if I go into this because I want to have a plan. It's not just. I want to have a plan. I want to create rhythms for rest, but I also want it to be fruitful. So I have like one of my goals is to rest my body, but engage my spirit.
I love that.
So that's one of my goals.
And when you say rest your body,
I will try to move. What I have to do for me, and this is again kind of learning my own rhythms, what I need to do. It's like what I was doing on Tuesday. I have to learn to change my entire pace of my body because my body and mind and everything moves so quick and fast that I will just intentionally try to slow down everything that I do. So I'm going to try to, I think that's one of those things that I need to probably work the cortisol hits and everything out of my system that I didn't do. And so I'll still work out. That's one of my goals so I have a goal. One of my sections that I wrote down of my plan was care. And so under care, I want to still continue. I want to work out 4 times a week. I want to eat healthily except for when I'm on vacation / trips because that's going to be hard to do
that's the whole
completely.
time.
No, it isn't. Well, it's about half the time that I'm on there. So I want to try to I don't want to just be like, oh, sitting around and eating junk food and doing all that. So I want to try to be healthy. Like I've got some other goals with that. But so I wrote down some of those things that I wanted to do. I wish I had it with me. I don't have my plan with me, but I wrote those things down. I am in the process right now of scheduling counseling appointments. And so I have sent 4 different weeks that I have availability to my counselor to say, awesome. Hey, what's your rhythm and schedule? And so even if some of them might be touch-ups, check-ins, just like that, I want to keep that just because my last one had so much challenge we're dealing with. I felt like I was dealing with spiritual attack. I felt like I was dealing with emotional fallout from probably the pressure and other things that it was just caused me to go haywire. So I'm going to go into this one a little bit more proactive of talking with a counselor, about how it's going, how am I feeling, what's, what am I experiencing? So I'm kind of like, it's not just like time away. I'm literally, I think to be effective, a sabbatical isn't just like, oh, go on a 2-month vacation. The idea is to reset your mind, body, spirit, And so I want to build in there. So I have reading a certain number of books. One of those is fiction. I'm going to require myself to read one fiction book. I'm going to require myself to read one book that will, I don't know the term for it, but I wrote this as soul book.
I have a whole list for you.
Okay. You can give me one. But one that would be soul / it's not just like on Sabbath but what I meant like spiritually filling.
Yes.
So and that might be what you're referring to. So that, and then I have on there.
Contemplative.
Yes. And then I want to also read probably, I have 3 more that are just for either I want to read, entertainment, fun, whatever.
Yeah.
So I want to read at least 5 books, cool. which would be hard, but I'm also wanting to write 20,000 words.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be taking the first portion to kind of decompress, do some writing, do some of that stuff in the first portion of it. Then we have a 1-week family trip planned with our kids, new grandbaby, all of that, which was new. I just told you we got thrown on the radar. Wasn't planning that. And then we only had planned one trip for a week that we're taking with some friends that were just old friends of ours that live down in Florida that we love to get together every once in a while. So we're going to go on a 6-day cruise out of Florida and go down and visit them for a little bit. And then a last-minute shift, I really wanted to write, and I wanted to be inspired in where I was writing, and a change of scenery. After talking with Dr. Wes and how he did all that like really, I was like, I've got to. So we ended up, we got some friends that we're going to be staying with, and we diverted our trip back afterwards from going to Florida to Denver. And I'll be staying in Colorado for at least a week. A little bit more than a week right now. Laurelie's going to stay for a portion of that, and then I'm going to at least have 4, 5, maybe longer if I do, of days to just write.
It's exciting.
In the Rocky Mountains.
In the Rocky Mountains. Nothing
and
better.
I'm going to be also really, I think, taking time, because I'm not going to write the whole time. I'll write to really want to use that time to be my very alone time where some of the things that I'm praying for and asking God to help me see some clarity of vision and other things, I'm going to be using some of that time. Like, to me, there's no better place than I can go out hiking by myself in the mountains, and spend some time with God. And so part of that is going to be journaling. It's not just going to be writing the book, but part of it, I'm really looking forward to having kind of some time of seclusion to really have time alone with God and kind of asking Him to really help me get some clarity and vision of where we're going. What's the next season of our church life look like?
It's great.
So that's some of the stuff that I'm going to be doing on it. And so I think the last time I did it, I did not have a plan. I did not have a plan for rest. I didn't have a plan for engaging spiritually, because it's a real, honestly, there's a real part of this that's hard, because my biggest, I'm such an extrovert, a people person. My favorite day of the week is Sunday mornings, and whether I'm preaching or not, doesn't matter. I love to connect with our church. Like, that's why you'll see me. I don't hide out in my office. Like, you'd never find me in my office. Like, I want to be around people. I love to connect with, I feel like my family, my closest friends, my community is so invested in the church. And so feeling like you're kind of, part of the sabbatical is not attending your church because you get asked to do church things and whatever. So, it's disconnecting from email and, work in that regard. And in a way, you feel very disconnected from your I don't know, your life source when it comes to community and things.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. And again, everybody...
So it's hard, too. It's not easy. It gets hard.
There's no script. Because I think it's a good point, because for some people it may sound, luxurious. And I'm sure you're going to... Look, you will guiltlessly have fun and have a great time and replenish and all that. But, and everybody takes sabbaticals differently, and people have different approaches, mindsets. But John Mark Comer, a really well-known author and pastor, just returned from like an extended sabbatical.
He did a year.
And he said for him, it was actually one of the hardest years of his life, and it felt like he returned from boot camp.
Yeah.
I mean, he said it was, just intensely, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually.
It was not, the last one I took was not fun.
Yeah.
I really did not enjoy it. So I've had a little PTSD going into this one.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things I'm trying to do differently is I'm trying to have a plan.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Because I didn't have a plan last time. So what I did was I threw myself into a house project because I think and so I'm more cognizant of this going in.
Yeah.
I think I'm so wired to produce that I had to find something else to produce.
Yep.
And so, I mean, you could make an argument. Writing in a book is kind of producing too, but I really am trying not to get into that zone because my wife said it was terrible. She was like, you just get up in the morning, you go down in the basement, you work all day, and I barely see you.
Yeah. Well, I want to spend a little bit of time here. Number one, because we're going to record a couple podcasts next week before you go, but I wanted everybody to know, if they don't see you for a while, why. And we have some in fact, you were kind of mad at me because I told you I got some exciting things planned.
Yeah, whatever.
For the summer.
It's like, oh, while you're gone, I was thinking about doing this and this and this and this. I'm like, okay, thanks.
So anyways, but I actually, and so I wanted them to hear from you and talk a little bit about rest, but I actually want to take a hard right turn from rest. And one other thing I want to talk about, kind of on the flip side, is I've been thinking a whole lot about focus, and I want to talk about focus. I sent you a text, so a few weeks ago I did not take a sabbatical, but I did take time off work. I took a week off to write.
Yeah.
And it was, I kind of went into it excited but dreading it, just because if you've ever, the idea of writing sounds really sexy until you sit down and stare at a screen. And it can be the most psychologically, if you ever just read books by professional writers, they will all say the same thing in different ways about the torment and the self-loathing, and the just the.
It is brutal.
It really is. It sounds exciting, and then you sit down and do it, and you stare at a screen, and then you all the thoughts. Will anybody read this? What am I doing? I'm wasting my life. I'm wasting my time. I can't focus. Then you beat yourself up because you can't focus. Then you come to the conclusion that you're a horrible person and you have a disease. So like it's just this. There's all of these like psychological, and my first day was tough, but it ended up being one of the most incredible weeks of my life. Yeah. Honestly, I texted you. I was on cloud nine. I was on cloud nine and maybe similarly to you going into sabbatical. I will say one of the things that helped is I went into it with a plan.
Yeah.
And there's several things I did that I think not only helped me with focus, but helped my mental health. So one of the things is leading up to that week and the week of, I didn't touch sugar. I didn't touch empty carbs, alcohol, any of that. I didn't touch YouTube. I didn't touch social media. I didn't touch news.
Yeah.
And I had airplane mode on my phone almost half the day, every day.
There you go.
I know me and I know my battles with focus. Yeah. So, one of the things that I did is each night I would put my phone on airplane mode and I wouldn't touch it the next day until I had hit 2/3 of my writing quotient. And only then, once I had hit it, did I allow myself to check my phone for a few minutes, cook breakfast, and then actually go to a different coffee shop each day where I could write at leisure the rest of my work.
So the goal was, if you don't write, you don't eat.
Yeah.
So you didn't eat until you wrote.
Yep. So, I would honestly, I got up about 6 or 7 every single day, and I would knock out 2/3 of my word count by, one day it was as early as 10, another day it was as late as 11:30, 12. And then I would make a late breakfast brunch, and then, and then one of the things that was very interesting that I did, just kind of as a personal treat once I knocked out the first part of my word count, is I found, I went to, because I have my normal coffee shops I go to, but that week of writing, every day I went to either a coffee shop I hadn't been to in a couple of years, or a coffee shop I went to a few years ago when I was writing my first book. So it's kind of like a trip down memory lane. It was kind of like getting in the mode. But it ended up, I ended that week and I had set what I thought was a pretty hefty word count.
Yeah,
and I exceeded. I can't believe it. I exceeded it by
40,000 words.
8 to 10,000 words.
Dude.
Yeah, so I hit over 20,000 words
in 1 week.
In 1 week,
That's insane.
in 5 days. Yeah, in 5 days, I
Maybe
hit
I'll
over
be able to
20,000
do
words.
that easily. Who knows? That's a lot.
But it felt incredible. I made sure that I was eating healthy. You make fun of me, but I was taking my nootropics and mushroom concoctions.
Ayahuasca.
I was not ayahuasca. I was
okay.
working out, running, and almost the only quote unquote distraction I had is I would listen to refilling old battle ready episodes on productivity and writing while I was driving to the coffee shop.
No.
I mean it just ended. Oh my gosh, when I came in here on Wednesday night, and I think it also made me realize, maybe this is bad, how there is more of the extroverted introverted part of me.
Yeah.
Because when I came in here Wednesday night for worship night, I just felt like a man on fire. I was ready to go.
Really?
I mean, I just so full.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And so every week can't be like that, but it got me thinking about, man, what are some of those things that I need to translate, that I can translate into my weeks, not just for mental health, but for focus and productivity. And honestly, ever since that writing week, I have actually continued the whole thing of phone goes on airplane mode at night, and I don't take it off until right before work. Wow. So in the morning, I am having breakfast and I'm having my devotions. And if I've gotten up early enough, I'm doing a little bit of writing before I ever turn my phone off airplane mode. And so anyways, it just got me thinking about the power of focus and what are some of the things that hinder us from focus? Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that help us focus? What do you do? What are you?
Yeah. Oh, good.
Which I feel like you naturally are great at focus anyways.
No, I'm terrible at focus. What are you talking about? No, I'm not good at focus at all.
You're good at discipline. So you discipline
good at discipline.
yourself
I'm
to
not
focus.
good at focus. So for me, like, even if I want to be productive, I am so again, everybody's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I am so easily distracted that I have to be alone.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm doing sermon prep, if I'm writing, if I'm trying to get anything accomplished, I cannot, because I will be so quickly distracted that I cannot get there is, and I don't know if there's been studies done, if there's like a term for this, and you'll know what I'm talking about because you got this with writing. And I don't think it's just because what you did for writing, but I think in work there comes a moment where you enter into a zone. Like I feel it when I'm writing messages, when I'm things, when all of a sudden I'm like plugged into, everything is translating in my mind down to the computer and it's just flowing, right? You felt that. You said, you were like, oh, I would just flow, and it was just, it almost comes effortlessly, even though it's not.
Right.
And so I think it's hard to get to that optimal zone. I think it's different than the energy zones that Carey Nieuwhof talks about. I'm talking about like when you are at your optimal productivity zone.
Yep.
And so I think I have to really be careful of any kind of distractions. And so for me, I think it's getting to a space where I'm alone. That's one of the reasons why when my last book, I did a lot of writing early in the morning, is because as soon as my family's awake and people are there, I just am so distracted, I'm done. So even when I was home and I wrote, but on the last one, I would go, if there were other people, I'd go out to the front porch, close the door. I'm sitting on the front porch by myself. And I did a lot of, like, I'd be out there for a couple hours. And even when it was hot in the summer, I'd be out there for a couple hours by myself, no one out there. I just need that kind of. So for me, that's one of the things that really helps. But I think you got to know yourself. Like, you may not be like that, but I am so easily distracted. And like I said, I've always said probably ADD to an extent, that I have to figure out how to limit those distractions. I mean, the same thing as what you're saying with airplane mode. I have to be alone.
Do not disturb is not enough.
So I've done it some. I don't love writing in coffee shops. You love it. But I don't.
But even
I
there,
get so distracted. It's really bad for me.
Yeah, I can see that. But even for me, like I had to make myself do 2/3 of it alone before I went.
Yeah.
Like once I was in that zone,
Yeah.
and the juices were flowing,
It didn't matter, maybe.
and I had most of it done, then I allowed myself the luxury of creating an inspiring space.
Yeah.
And
That makes sense.
But no, that's great. What about so I already wanted to talk about focus, but then kind of another angle of focus, another aspect of it is, what are because that's some of the practicals. That's some of the things practically that help me focus. That's practically what helps you eliminate distractions. Because a lot of it is just, a lot of focus comes down to what do you eliminate?
Yeah.
What do you need to eliminate? You need to eliminate
100%.
noise. You need to eliminate anything that could steal.
Yeah.
Because one little distraction can just get you out of that zone.
And I think it also depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Let me
Sure.
just point out this, for me, like writing, whether it's writing messages, writing a book, writing whatever, I need the margin, and it's almost like revving up your engine. Like it takes me a little while.
Yeah.
You probably felt that too.
Yes.
It takes a little while to feel like you're productive, and so every time I feel like if I have a major distraction, it's like restarting. It's like starting over again.
Yes.
Now I need.
Yep.
I have to get back. It's not just pick. And I don't think all tasks are like that.
Yeah.
You may not major if it's mindless task,
Yeah.
menial task. I
Yeah.
just jump back in and do it. But if it's something that requires creativity, there's something that requires
Problem solving?
Yes, problem solving. Anything that's like novel that you're trying to do something from scratch or new. I think it takes.
Yes.
It takes margin to get it's like revving it's like
Yeah.
getting up to speed
Yeah.
before you can start rolling.
Yeah.
And so anything that distracts, I think, causes you to start back at zero.
Yep. So this is not even meant to be a super practical episode, but if we're going to get practical for anybody out there that wants, number one is prepare. I mean, well, just like your
Yeah.
sabbatical and just like for the right week, prepare ahead of time.
Yeah.
Prepare your space, prepare your plan. Preparation's half the battle.
Yeah.
Number two, ruthlessly eliminate distractions.
Yeah.
I think a third thing is the mental preparation of what you're going to face, because
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of debate around like what you call creators, writer's block, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, we talked about it. And Lamont says you got to fall in love with your SFDs,
SFD. Yeah,
SFD, your crappy
Your
first drafts.
CFDs.
Yeah, your CFDs, your crappy first drafts. You've got.
I noticed Donald Miller has stolen that,
Oh yeah,
and he just changes the word
yeah.
because he talks all the time about
Oh yeah,
it in his
you
stuff.
have to write, and Stephen Pressfield and the War of Art talks about this. You've got to write bad in order to write good.
Yeah.
And I've heard Urban Manis talk about. He said, when I'm staring at the screen, I will consider a certain amount of staring at the screen as the work of writing. He said, I literally give myself permission for the first little bit to say, I know when I first stare at this screen, I'm going to be distracted.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the process.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it, because if you don't have that mental, then the moment you first get distracted and restless, you're just going to get in this cycle in your
Yeah.
head of, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm a failure. I'm never going to blah, blah.
No.
But if you prepare yourself, no, that's going to be part of the process.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrestle through distraction. I'm going to have bad writing, and I'm going to work through the distraction and through the bad writing, and eventually I'm going to keep digging until I hit gold.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I had to like mentally prepare myself for that. That's just going to be part of it.
Yeah.
But another thing, and it got me thinking about it. Did you listen to the second episode of Mind Shift?
No.
Talk about urgency. It was incredible.
Was it?
But one of the things is which, by the way, is really cool. I had some people DM me that because we've mentioned Battle Ready so much on this podcast, now listen to it.
No, that's cool.
But
One of our favorites.
Yeah, one of our favorites. But they just rebranded to Mind Shift, and one of the football leagues was having Urban McManus on to talk through. Well, I guess one of the questions that a lot of NFL players ask is, how do I get past overthinking? And so he said, I'm not going to go into all of it now, but one of the things he talked about in a very, for him, a very practical, hyper practical moment was the idea of trigger words, but in a good way. And he just talked about like there's a sect of the Marines that use the phrase full benefit. And it's this, if anything ever goes bad, like, it's raining, there's a setback, the whole idea of every obstacle is an opportunity.
Yeah.
They have this thing they'll all say together, full benefit. And it's like this trigger word to get their mindset, okay, nope, I'm leaning forward.
Yeah.
Like this is a focus. And, different people have talked about this. There's a reason that if you see a basketball player in a free throw, about to do free throws, they all have their own little ritual. The ritual is useless. The point is it helps them focus.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, I think I've actually unintentionally or subconsciously done this for years without realizing what I'm doing it. For years before I go and I preach, and I'm just kind of giving away, my my personal stuff, but I have a few phrases I always say to myself before I come on the platform.
That's right. You say watermelon.
Yeah, no. But before I get on to preach, one of the things I'll tell myself for years to get myself out of my head or get past like what, if I'm starting to overthink, okay, how am I going to come across is, it sounds cliche, but nothing to lose, nothing to prove. Someone said that to me, 10 years ago, and it's just this reminder in a humble way that I have nothing to prove to anybody, and I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
God's called me to do this, so I'm going to give it my all, and I got nothing to prove, nothing to lose. And so that's just kind of like a confidence thing for me. Another one I've used over the last couple of years, this is going to sound really spiritual, but I love this. I heard someone talk about that every time Charles Spurgeon would walk to the platform, he would say one phrase to himself over and over again, I believe in the Holy Ghost. I believe in the Holy Ghost. And like that idea of I'm walking, like I don't have enough in me,
right?
But I'm walking up there with power.
Yeah.
And the whole, all this doesn't rest on me. It rests on the power of God. Another one, this is going to sound the opposite. This is going to sound completely not spiritual at all. But another phrase I'll tell myself sometimes if I'm really overthinking it is, look, Russ, you've done all that you can to prepare. But at the end of the day, you're going to do the best up there when you're relaxed. And so my kind of trigger phrase before I go out is just have fun.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple. It doesn't sound spiritual. But I know that I'm going to do my best and I'm going to resonate with people the best if I am just relaxed and I'm myself and I'm not in my head.
Yeah.
So that's with speaking. And then I have other things in different areas of my life. And so it just got me, I don't know. I was going to ask you, do you have any rituals or trigger phrases or trigger words? What do you do to get in the zone, to focus? Do you have anything you say to yourself before you go to speak?
I have over the years, but not consistently the same thing. There are times when I've said before, and I say it a lot when we have big, special weekends and other things, and we gather the whole production team. It's like it's the same kind of thing. We're trying to remind people, hey, let's have fun, because I do think that there is something where it relaxes us when we go, because I think whenever there's a ton of pressure on your shoulder, when you can kind of get in your mind, go, wait a minute, no, I'm here to have fun. Yeah. That I think you relax, which then causes people to receive whatever you're trying to, and there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah. I mean, as you ever go watch somebody and they're nervous as all get out and they're scared, then you feel on edge. I hope they don't mess up for their sake, for that, and so I think the more relaxed you are, the more relaxed the people are. Yeah. They mirror what you do as a communicator. Yeah. And so I'm trying to think if there's any specific phrases. I think one of the things that helps me, though, I don't know if this will answer the question, but one of the things that does really help me is if I take care of some of the things that I need, that I feel like there's certain tasks. Maybe you think about this in whatever respect that you're in, like whether it's menial things you have to do every day, things that you want to do every day. If I can get those things done first, I feel a liberty to be able to focus. Yeah. So for me, and this is why I have to maintain some of these rhythms going into a sabbatical, getting up at a good hour, having my devotional time, going to the gym, getting a shower, coming back, maybe eating something, or I guess I don't eat a lot of stuff in the morning, but maybe a protein shake or something like that. If I can feel like I take care of, I got to feed the animals, got to do this. Like if I take care of some of that stuff first and get it out of the way, I feel like I clear my plate to where I can actually just rest and focus on what I need to do. If I don't, then what happens is that I'm like, okay, I get up, I'll try to write into this. I keep going back to over and I'm like, I still got to do that. Man, I didn't even work out today. I got to, so for me, getting some of those things done early and out of the way, I would rather do that. I'm very alert and probably at my best early in the morning, but I feel the best right after I work out and take a shower. And so for me, those rhythms of getting up, taking care of some of the things that I need to take care of first, or that I kind of just like working out, having my devotional time. If I don't, and I just jump right into those things, here's what will happen. Any moment where it gets hard in the process, I will go, oh, I need to do those things, and it becomes a distraction.
Yeah.
Even if it's the thing itself is not a distraction. I'm like, oh, I haven't done that yet. I'm stuck. I'm going to get up and go do that. Instead of forcing myself to stay in the process of the zone. So I look at it like things like that I need to get done.
Okay. No, that's good.
That's like one of them.
But no like rituals or no like what about, okay, with working out, do you have any, okay, so you're just probably so disciplined you don't need it. Me, I remember, this is going to sound really morbid and really intense, but when I was in like 7th grade, super into martial arts, reading everything Bruce Lee ever said or did. Yeah. There's this kind of classic story where Bruce Lee fell in love with running. He actually considered running the king of exercises.
Okay.
And he was trying to get his friend in shape who was running with him but couldn't keep up and was like, Bruce, I literally can't go any further. If I go any further, I'll have a heart attack. And kind of ruthlessly, Bruce Lee said, then if you die, you die. And it's really, really intense and very not empathetic. But for some reason, like when I was having trouble, like I felt myself kind of slacking off, not finishing workouts that I had pre-written.
Yeah.
And so for a while, I would have, on my notes app, I would have the exercise. And at the top, I would make a commitment with somebody. Hey, I'm going to finish this. And I wrote at the top of those workouts, if I die, I die. And I know that sounds very like morbid and a little bit intense, but I would make a commitment with myself before the workout. If I die, I die, but I'm going to finish this.
I love it.
And I don't know why, but for a while that helped me. It was like it was my focus thing, but nothing like that.
I don't have a phrase like that.
No?
If I die, I die. I'm just so
You're Mr. Discipline. You're Discipline Danny.
I'm such a routine person that I feel like, and so for me, probably being consistent with that routine, I don't know. That's not a struggle for me. Now, if I had a really hard workout, that'd be a great phrase. I think I've gotten to the point where I just don't push myself to do really hard workauts. So that's where it's like having
I've gotten there again too.
I just feel like that's where having a workout partner really does help. When I work out with other people, it's just
latent energy.
Yeah,
I was listening to a podcast about that today.
Really?
About the science that is probably different than writing, but in almost any arena of life, whether it's social, even if it's a social event or a physical exercise event, if you're around another human being or other people, you will do better. You will push harder. You will run faster.
Yeah, and so I used to have workout partners before, and I just haven't for years. And so I find myself doing stuff, but it's so easy to not push yourself to do it. And so that's been a little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a challenge. But I don't really have a lot of rituals. I do have a few things that, like a prayers or times I'll say before I go out and speak, right before I go out, and there are a few things I do there. But I don't have any like verbal rituals, for like daily focus. I don't know, but I mean, if I die, I die. It's pretty good. I might have to adopt that one when I go to the gym. I get on cardio. If I die, I die.
If I die, I die.
No, that's good. But I think one of the things that would be helpful too, that maybe we could take the concept of focus. Our arena maybe is quite different than people that are listening.
Sure.
So how do you think we could translate the stuff? Because what stuff we're talking about, a lot of the stuff that we have is, so I always like to try to put myself like, okay, what's this look like for a teacher? What's this look like for a firefighter? What's this look like for a CPA?
But see, that's where I actually think, even though it sounds kind of self-helpy, new agey, that's where I actually think no matter what arena you're in, no matter what profession you're in, the idea of a trigger phrase for focus is so perfect. Because let's say you're a teacher and your whole class, let's say you got a really tough class this year, the whole class is going absolutely just bonkers. And you've got to find a way to find your center and like find a calm. And it could be as simple as maybe a phrase like calm is power. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just throwing something out. It could be something way better than that. But to find something that when you say this, that brings you back to the moment.
Yeah.
And it actually helps bring your senses back into focus. That when I say this, that's my key.
Yeah.
And that you just have these phrases and you have these things in your back pocket. Like, okay, a big example of this, Brock Everhart. We had him on the podcast. He's got about 5 of these phrases that he keeps in his pocket when he does his marathons.
Okay.
That when he hits a wall, when he hits that place where he's like, I don't think I can go any further.
Yeah.
He has these phrases. I don't remember what they all are, but he's got 4 or 5 of them. And so I just think whatever area
Maybe
you're
we
in,
need to. Maybe that's our goal. We need to develop our phrases.
we need to develop some phrases. I mean, I think there's stuff like this in your spiritual life.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, part of this is maybe a oversimplified version of having God's word hidden in your heart, but having promises, having phrases that, when you, okay. So like I think this one could work for anybody. I put this in the book. But there was a season where I just felt so distracted and so worried and frustrated about everything that I just couldn't like get my mind right. And so my trigger phrase was, yeah, but that's not my focus. And so whenever I began to have my mind, because a lot of this goes back to whatever arena you're in, most of the battle's in your head.
Yeah.
And so in this particular season, if I were to, my mind started going down a trail of worried about this relationship or worried about this thing or worried about, okay, how are other people responding to this? My centering phrase was, yeah, but that's not my focus. That's what I can't control. Here's what I can't control. So God, I give this. So I just think
it's good. There's, I think, some that come to my mind that I've said in the past or thought in the past that have been helpful for me as we've been thinking of them. I think a phrase that I've even encouraged other people with, and at times to do when you're in a difficult season, is that old phrase, "This too shall pass."
I love it.
This too shall pass. Like, and it's just trying to have that. Okay, this season's bad. It's hard. It's painful. This is awful. But this is going to pass. There is joy in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of deal. Another phrase that I think is kind of I keep this one in the recesses of my mind, and I bring it out whenever I feel discouraged about where I am. It's this, and I don't think he was the one that first came up with this quote, but I first heard it from Craig Rochelle years and years ago. And he said, and you'll know this phrase, I want to make sure I get it right. Don't overestimate what you can do or accomplish in the short run. Is that the way I'm saying it right? And don't underestimate what you can do in the long haul of faithfulness. So don't overestimate what you can. So I always remember when I get discouraged about, I thought I would be here by now, or I thought I could do this by now, or I thought I would see this by now. I'm not. I always try to go back to that phrase. I have it right in my head. I just don't say it right sometimes. But where it's so often for us to overestimate the importance of just like, well, I didn't in 1 year do all this.
Right.
Or it could be losing weight. I didn't in 2 weeks lose all the weight that I wanted. You know what I mean? But at the same time, we often underestimate what, and I think he worded a little different, what a life of consistency and faithfulness and will produce in your ministry or in whatever field you're in. Yeah. And so, like, I think those are a couple phrases. That's a phrase that I always go back to when I feel really discouraged. I'm like, oh, okay, but I've got 20 more years of this, so maybe there's gonna be, maybe I'll see at the end, and go, oh, I actually feel like I accomplished more, for God than I thought I was doing. When I was right in the middle of it. No, so those are a couple phrases that I think. Yeah. I don't know. And maybe that's the challenge from today's, as we're talking about focus, is how do you bring yourself back to focus when you're discouraged or when you're struggling, and maybe you have to speak to yourself. That's good. Maybe you have to mentally, you know. Yeah. But I think even beyond just even the phrases, when it comes to creating focus, how do you see that play out for some other professions? So, I mean, for us, it's, okay, how do we'll get in the zone to write or to write a message or to figure out a plan for the staff or the team that I'm doing or whatever it is. What do you think that looks like if you're a nurse? What do you think that looks like if you have a job that's different than that? You're a CPA and you're going to work every day and you're working with accounting and numbers and an office and taxes. And
so I actually think, I love this topic. I actually think regardless of what career you're in, before you get to the practical, you almost have to start with the philosophical. And what I mean is the greatest way to bring daily focus is to have an overarching vision. So if you're a teacher, you're a nurse, I think you have to start with, I think you're not going to care enough and have the fuel in your tank enough to focus if you don't actually have a vision that fuels that focus. It's vision for who you want to become in your health that fuels the daily focus of eating well and going to the gym.
Yeah.
And so I think whatever profession you're in, no matter whether you feel like it's meaningful or not, especially if it's a career you're in, you've got to dig a little bit deep and maybe write like a one-line statement. This is why I do what I do.
I was going to say the
so
why.
I'm not just a nurse. In this season of my life, I have an assignment to bring health and well-being to humanity.
Yeah.
Well, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
And then that's going to actually, and then speak that on the way to work every day. Like say that out loud on the way to work every day. I think that's a starting point.
Yeah.
And then I think from there you have to decide, okay, so what are the things that hinder you from focusing on that objective every day?
Yeah.
And for a lot, and let's just be honest, I don't care what profession you're in, for a lot of us, it's our phones.
Yeah.
I mean, some people have to use their phones to work on, but our phones are so customizable now. I mean, we were joking about it the other day, but our Apple phones, smart technology is designed to distract us, and yet they're creating apps in our distracting devices that help us not be distracted by the distracting devices that they want to distract us with.
Yeah.
so like,
are you just as lost as I am?
So how do you utilize that? How do you have a curated do not disturb list? How do you make sure that you are because what you said earlier is another key too. How do you make sure that you actually start your morning with clarity?
Yeah.
So that you don't feel cluttered in your mind the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. It is really hard for you to wake up, roll over, start scrolling through social media, discourage yourself with news, rush out the door without breakfast or time with Jesus, and then go straight into a job with just, frustrating coworkers and just feel crystal clear in your vision, your heart, and your mind.
Yeah.
So those are a few practical things right off the top of my head. Curate an overall vision for why you do what you do. Start the morning. John Maxwell. Let's just be really cliche. Win the morning, you win the day.
Yeah.
So make sure you win your morning, and then while you're there, speaking vision over why you do what you do on the way there. Once you get there, ruthlessly eliminate distractions.
Yeah.
That would hinder you from the vision.
I think a couple things that you could do, as you were talking, I'm just kind of thinking, how do we apply some of this focus stuff? There are some great resources out there. One of the things that was helpful for me was, several years ago, a lot of our staff, read through Carey Nieuwhof's book,
At Your Best.
At Your Best. Mm-hmm. And so for me, what it did was it brought an awareness to my most productive hours of the day.
Yes.
And so you'd know this from my schedule, I do not, for the most part, Monday through Thursday, take any appointments in the mornings. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know that pretty well.
Yep.
And anytime it's asked, hey, can we do that? I'm like, nope.
Yep.
Because I have things that I need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday's coming. I have a message I need to prep. I need this. Mm-hmm. Weekend afternoons, I did this, but and you have to, I think, protect it.
Yeah.
So I think part of focus is knowing what your most productive time is. Mm-hmm. And other people might be different. Mm-hmm. It could be evening. It could be late at night. It could be a night person. They work a different shift. It could be all kinds of things. You got to know what your most productive time is, and then you need to protect it.
Yep.
I think you have to protect that. I do agree with you about a vision or a plan. I think we always need to think in terms, if we don't think in terms of what am I building, where am I going? I think one of the best ways to think about your life is start with the end in mind. Yeah. Right? Start with, what do I want? They say the same thing is true about retirement, right? Start with, retirement is a relatively new thing to humanity the last 50 years. It's not a biblical thing, number one. I'm not saying everybody needs to retire, but it seems to be the new trend, and culturally is that people, I think, they work for a really long time. Now we're living longer, so now this is a whole another conversation is changing, is people's work careers are now moving to 40, 50 years because of how long we're living. And so, but you start with that's what you go see somebody when you're 25 or 30, 40 years old, they're going to go, okay, what does it look like for you when you retire? They're going to ask you the question. I had to fill out a whole sheet when I met with a financial advisor, and they're asking all these questions. What do you expect out of life? What do you want to do? I think the same thing is true, even if you have your day job could be a nurse, Okay, why am I a nurse? My wife's a nurse, so that's a great question, right? Why am I a nurse? Am I getting a paycheck?
Yep.
Am I trying to help people? I love what you said, like speaking the why over you as you go there. It could be that you could see, I'm going to be a nurse to take care of people. You could be going, I want to make a difference in, whether it's a nurse, it could be your office. I want to make a difference in my office for Christ.
Yeah.
Well, how's that going to change things? Well, my attitude's going to matter when I go to work. All the different things. But you're trying to build towards something. Or why am I working?
Yeah.
I'm working because I'm actually trying to build something so that I have the freedom to invest in my grandkids.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you got to have a plan.
Yeah.
So I love what you said about vision. I think that's beautiful. I think if you do not have a vision or a purpose, there is 0 point in worrying about your focus.
Yeah. I think it's great. Yeah.
Because who cares?
I heard, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I think I heard Stephen Furtick talk about This Is the Dream, talking about Joseph and how like a lot of times we don't realize that we're standing in the thing that we once prayed for, and things that we once would have treasured begin to seem mundane or whatever. And he just he gave, it started out with a talk he gave to a staff that turned into an Inside Elevation conference thing. And he basically just said, what if for a month, every little task you did, you declared over it, this is significant. Like with the things that feel small, the meetings that you do, the whatever that you declared over it, this is significant. I heard Erwin McManus say one time that when he was in a season of preaching to tens of thousands of people, that he would just he would get distracted because he's not an extrovert. People would want to extrovert it with him and so his like phrase before he got to speak every time was, "This matters, this matters."
Ooh, I like that one.
Like what if you just? I mean, even as you're trying to figure out your why, like you're going in to your work and you're representing God if you're a person of faith, and the way that you do every job is building into your own character, is going to connect your present season to your future seasons, is going to impact. I mean, what if you just declared as a way to, especially actually if you're in a job that doesn't feel meaningful. What if you declared as you go into the restaurant tomorrow, this matters.
This matters.
This matters.
Yeah. And even if you don't see it in the impact that you might have with those that you serve, whether you're in sales or you work in, retail or you work in food service or whatever, waiting and whatever, you could look at it like every day that I go to work, every day that I'm doing this task, I'm building towards something.
Yes.
I'm building something. Yeah. I'm building a resume. I'm building a career. I'm building income. I'm building influence. Yeah. I'm building favor. I'm building something for my family. Yeah. What it does is it takes the menial jobs that you have. It sometimes takes the mundane. I just go to work every day and I just fill out paperwork and I just do this, and I don't know that makes a difference. Yeah. Well, when you look at it and go, no, that's a stepping stone to the next phase, to the next phase, to the next phase, and it all is part building your resume. Yeah. It's all making you hireable. It's all making you profitable. It's all making, you put food on the table at home. It's all, you're building towards something. Yep. I'm trying to build something. And I think it's having that, that kind of mindset, I think could really help you define what your focus is. Yep. And learn how to kind of structure your life for focus. Yeah. And you accomplish more. Yeah. You accomplish more. Yeah. And so you accomplished a ton, circling back all the way, you accomplished a ton that 1 week. You'd say probably one of the most effective, productive times of your, in a year. It was setting aside, what did you do? You invested, you took PTO so that you would have dedicated time to commit to something that you believe is important, that you have as a goal to accomplish and do. And you're going to accomplish it. Yeah, and I think that's amazing because a lot of people, that's why I want to say this, a lot of people sit around and maybe even listen to this, maybe you watch this, and it's easy to sit around and listen and go, I wish I was productive like that. I wish I could write a book like that. We just heard partly what it takes. Yeah. It took a plan. It took using your vacation time, but not actually leaving and going somewhere and not going to have fun, because writing is not fun. It's work. It might be something you're passionate about doing, but it's not fun. It is labor. Like people once say, called a labor of love. It is a labor, and sometimes you don't love it. Yeah. But if it's a calling, if it's something you feel called to do, something you're passionate about, something you want to produce, and it could be anything that you want to do, whether it's starting your own business. Yeah. It's just, I just find it's so easy to sit around and be jealous of other people that have done things that you wish to do, have succeeded in areas you wish you'd succeed, and you just sit around and go, well, they just must be good. They must be better. No. They're committed. They're dedicated. They create space. They have focus. They do all these things. And so, again, I think there's a tendency.
You got me inspired.
I think it's just a tendency to listen to just even this one podcast. And to sometimes go, well, okay, that's good for you, but I just have this job where I go do that. Why? That's your choice.
Yeah.
That's your choice.
Yeah.
Well, I just have this career in this job. Why? It's your if you hate it, go back to school, do something else.
Yeah.
Why are you just going to sit around and listen to somebody else talk about them pursuing their dreams and what they want to do and going, oh, I wish I could be them. Stop doing that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Do something on your own.
Well, number one, you got me inspired. number two, you got me fired up, even though I believe it. But you know what? You just said something that this might be a podcast for another time.
Yeah.
But I don't, and I'm not the person that over spiritualizes things, but the two different little podcasts I've turned on today randomly have both been around the theme of diversification. I listened to the little 15-minute basin thing that Stephen Furtick's been doing from a few weeks ago, and he talked about how hope, the antidote against this disappointment is diversified hopes. That always not putting your eggs in a basket, but always saying, and he used this phrase. He wasn't even talking about trigger phrases, but the phrase he ended with was, whatever you're working on, when it's discouraging or it's delayed or it doesn't work out, the phrase is, that's okay. Something else is on the way.
Yeah.
And, this book didn't work out, but I'm working on this song and I'm working on this.
Yeah.
And he talked about, your ultimate hope's in God, but don't put your ultimate hope in outcomes.
Yeah.
God's the only thing you put your ultimate hope in, but when it comes to outcomes of like, I hope this gets better, it needs to be diversified. And then it's interesting, I was listening to DOAC, is it Stephen Bartlett?
Yep.
He was interviewing this fascinating psychologist that talked about the reason that human beings so many times get stuck is because it's almost like the curse of success. You end up getting hired and promoted into a niche. And he even talked about like when you're getting your master's or your PhD, he said it may be good for a season, but what you really end up getting pigeonholed into is a very specific niche, and then you're stuck there. And unfortunately, the smarter you are, the more you get stuck into specialty roles, which actually, ironically, is a recipe for you being stuck because human beings weren't meant to only be in one little thing.
No.
And it was really interesting. And he was just talking about one of the ways that you've got to help yourself as a human being is to have multiple different diverse interests and hobbies and passions that you're into and give yourself permission to diversify.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me of that because, I think there's probably a lot of people that, whether you listen to this, or you watch this, or you see other people that inspire you, it can be easy to think, but man, I'm stuck doing this. Yeah. But you don't have to be.
No.
You can, as much as I'm about rest, I'm also, I'm telling you, one of the things that refuels me and re-energizes me just as much as taking time to rest on Saturday is taking hours when I'm not at work to fuel my side hustles and to invest in other reasons I feel like God put me on earth. And anyways.
I don't know what that has to do with focus, but it's
it just.
I think if you just don't have I think you need motivation.
Yes.
I think motivation fuels focus too.
Yes.
But that goes back to
I just went on to a third topic.
That's just, but I think that adds to it. I think that's what I'm referring to as the motivation. Have some motivation, but what gives you motivation?
Yeah.
Motivation is, what do you start with the end in mind? What do you want to accomplish in life? What do you want to build? What are you building? Think about that. What are you building with your life? And if you don't like it, and I think here's how you know if you're disconnected from what you're building is if every day just feels isolated. If every day feels like it's Tuesday, I got to get up, I got to go to work, I got to do this, I got whatever, and go to bed, and it doesn't feel like it's a part of the bigger narrative, then I think you just need to change. You need to expand and create that narrative. You need to say, no, I'm working towards something. So if it takes me, if over the sabbatical I get 20,000 words written, awesome. If I have to do another 20,000 words beyond that to get the book done. Awesome. Whatever it's going to take. I'm moving toward a goal
Yeah.
that I have. And that goal is writing, and it is another medium in which I want to use to communicate some of the things that I'm feeling God show me and other things. And so you got to have that end goal in mind, or you're never going to create the time, the margin and focus.
That's good. Do you have, this is completely off topic, but on what you just said, do you have you want to talk about the topic of your book?
Not yet.
Okay. Do you have a goal when you want your first draft to be done?
I would like my first draft to be done this year.
So by the end of December.
A lot.
First rough draft.
First rough draft.
Yep.
That lot will have to do with probably how, I mean, if I get into the flow and things really rock and roll, then that'll be, but that's what I would like to do. I would like to be somewhere by the end of this year, have my first rough draft and start into I want to give myself more time than I did last time for a process. So it might be next fall if I could,
Yeah.
I'd like to give myself a lot of time.
Yeah.
And one of my goals is I outlined this book, and it was something I felt really passionate about, and I still do in writing. But I have other projects, and this is part of the whole ADD and focus thing. I have other projects that I'm super excited about too. And so part of what I do is I tell myself, in many ways, you can't get to the other project until you finish this one. Because my wife says I'm great at starting things, but not finishing them. And that's so So I'm gonna stay focused. I really think that a big difference, and I'll let you know on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And I hope I execute. I think a huge difference of that's a big difference for me going into this one is I'm going into it with a plan.
Yeah.
I did not go into the last one with a plan, and it did not go well.
Yeah.
So
it was also a different season.
It was a different season. I am keeping all that in mind. As PTSD rears its ugly head. So anyways.
Well, it has been a wide-ranging but fun conversation.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's inspired you in one of the aspects. Rest, focus, or heck, diversify. And, I just think it's easy to get stale, And, but I think there's more that's in our control to unstick ourselves when we feel stuck.
Yeah, it's good.
So, hey, maybe let us know your focus hacks. What are your focus hacks?
Or any phrases.
Yeah, let us know your phrases.
Any phrases. I like it when this matters.
This matters.
I just like short, simple phrases.
Yeah.
That just remind you what I'm doing. It matters right now. That's good.
Yep.
This matters.
For a while, I still get kind of chills when I think about it, but do you remember when Let's Roll was really big? Remember what it came from? And one of the 9/11 hijacked planes.
Oh, yeah.
One of the people got...
It was the one in Pennsylvania, wasn't it? Ones where they went...
famous last words before they went to take out the terrorists. They said, let's roll.
Oh, wow.
And just charged.
Tense.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully you are having a great summer so far.
Yeah.
Don't know when this one will come out, but we hope that this conversation enriched you.
Yeah.
And focus. Find something this week and apply some focus to it. And until next time, we will see you next week.